Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the latest in travel podcast by GuestCentric. I'm really excited to welcome to today's episode Sérgio Serra, who is the CTO at GuestCentric. Sérgio brings over a decade of experience in the technology, hospitality, and travel space, and has been instrumental in leading the development of solutions that solve complex business problems and also are designed around the user and the consumer in mind. So Sérgio, it's really great to have you. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you, Melissa. It's very good to be here today, especially after so many great guests that you had before. So I hope to be at the same standard that you are bringing to the podcast.
I'm sure you will, and that's why I invited you, because you always have interesting perspectives and insights to share on these kind of things. So I'm sure it'll be a great conversation. But before we dive into it, do you mind just telling, because I gave a brief introduction, but do you mind just telling listeners or viewers who might not know, a little bit about your background, what you've been up to, what you do, and so on in the industry?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, currently I'm CTO at GuestCentric, which have been keeping me busy over the last decade or so. Before that, I would say that I have an unconventional background in tech. I started to code at an early age, around 10, probably. But I don't have the standard thing that I just kept going and started to work in tech. I made different things before. Because I actually was a rebel, so I dropped high school. Then I decided that I wouldn't go to the college. So I worked in different areas before starting to work exclusively on tech. Before even working on tech, I made my military service, and only after that I decided that I would go into college and do the usual career in tech. Then I started to work in different areas, especially in industry around production, solving production problems, which are actually very complex and also funny business. After that, I also co-founded a startup. We built the first software as a service for veterinaries. It was also very fun time, and on that time, I started to have a different perspective around technology, but because we were also managing the business, and so. In the beginning, it was all about coding, but at that point, we started to also focus on business strategies and how to make the things work as a company. After that, I spent some years working around sports events, real-time systems to do timing and things like that, and live TV transmissions. And finally, after all these years, tackling with different areas, I joined GuestCentric, and since there I've been focusing on hospitality.
And what made you, just out of curiosity, choose hospitality as an industry to specialize in terms of technology?
I wouldn't say that I choose hospitality. Back in the day, I just saw an opportunity that looked like a great opportunity back then. And I was also pretty sure that hospitality would be something easy for me because I was working with big industrial systems and things like that. But after joining, I understood that, unfortunately and also fortunately, I was wrong and things were a bit more complex than what I was expecting. And so here we are after all these years, still learning new things and still looking for new problems to solve to help hoteliers thrive.
Very cool. It's a very varied background, and I can relate to the rebel part, not getting the formal education on stuff. But yeah, and sort of going into, because you obviously have experience as an entrepreneur, and that's something you're quite passionate about, is mentoring. I don't know if we call it the next generation of tech innovation and stuff in travel and hospitality. And sort of from your experience, I guess, mentoring startups and people that are developing these ideas and solutions for the industry, Do you see, is there anything that you've seen that you think has the potential to significantly impact like the guest experience for hotels in terms of technology developments?
Well, actually, in terms of mentoring, I don't used to mentor people from travel tech, not for any particular reason. I think it's just coincidence. But the company, we participated in an acceleration program for startups, and there we had the opportunities to talk with tens of different travel tech startups. And what we see over the past years, and it's more or less obvious, is that everybody's trying to do something with AI and trying to leverage the automation on the side of the hotel, like in making the operation more simple and helping the hotels find new sources of revenue. And then on the guest side, we are seeing lots of technology being put around the experience, trying to find the best experiences, supporting the guests while traveling. So I'm not sure at this point what would be like the big change in our industry. What I would expect is that, as we are doing until now, things will be kind of incremental, and that's what I would expect. But definitely around AI.
And there seems to be this kind of notion, I guess, like I hear it in conversations, especially like particularly, I would say, with like tech professionals in this space, sort of observations that like the industry overall, like maybe hotels and well, the OTAs, they tend to be earlier adopters with these kind of things, but then it seems like hotels are a little bit like, I don't know, it takes a little bit longer for them to catch up with sort of these things. Do you agree with that notion? And if so, like, what do you think could be done in the industry to be more like innovative and have more of a culture of innovation around these things, so that there's more of a ease in embracing these technologies that can help their business?
Well, I would tend to agree with the professionals that say that usually the hotels are not as quick in following innovation. And because I think that usually when we see hotels getting into a technology or getting into a new sales channel or things like that, it's like in what I call a reactive way. So they are seeing that the industry is already evolving. There are other hotels starting to go to those places or to embrace those technologies. And only at that time we start to see hotels concerned about these new innovations, let's call it like this. Of course, on the big hotel chains, it's not as much like that because they also tend to follow the OTAs and sometimes even have their own R&D teams working on technology. But overall, I would agree. And to foster innovation, we are seeing already some brands on the industry, especially on technology, also having their own acceleration programs for startups, which I think that overall it's a good idea for the industry, because this gives space to grow new companies. Of course, that we would also need to think if we want these startups being supported for the giant of the industry, because this can lead to a certain concentration as we are seeing in other areas. But I think that overall the industry is competitive, and over the past few years we are seeing more small companies getting into hospitality space with new technologies and new applications, which also increase all of the complexity of this business for hotels and also for tech partners.
And in terms of these like new developments and innovations, is there anything specific that you've seen? I don't know to what degree we can talk about this kind of stuff externally, like to the wider audience, but like, is there anything in development or sort of in progress that you've seen in terms of ideas like that have stood out to you in terms of these applications and things that you referred that are sort of being developed now for the future?
Well, I think that one of the favorite applications that I've seen over, I would say, the last year, it's around the traveling experience, like planners that will help you to find the right hotel, the right itinerary for a certain area that you want to go. And I think this is something that will happen, or it will become more standardized, like this, because I think that there's uh, a will to have personalized experiences, and I think technology helps shaping those experiences at a lower price. And so I think that we will be seeing more things about like this in the hospitality space, and of course this will also pose new challenges for hotels.
It's interesting you mentioned, I've actually been looking into these kind of, I guess you could say AI apps about, like, I haven't, like, to be honest, haven't tested any myself yet, but like in theory, they're supposed to, like, you plan the whole trip, like from the flights to the price compare, but it's all like very specific answers. It's not like in Google, for example, where it's like a lot of different information that you have to sift through. So it's quite interesting. Do you use any personally, these kind of apps, or no?
Yeah, actually, while planning my latest trip, I'm not using any of those specialized applications, but yeah, I've used chatbots to plan my next trip, and it's good because sometimes you have to read a lot of websites and thinking about what would be the best way to do transportation between places. And I found it that it will help, and it will save us lots of time doing it. Of course, usually what I do is that I will confirm, like, on the websites of the companies that are suggested, and check if everything seems to work, and it is. But overall, it has been a good experience.
Yeah. And sort of going back to the looking at the industry and becoming more innovative, and thinking more long term about the vision for the future. In your opinion, how do you think the collaboration between, like, I guess, more established hospitality brands and startups, like, how do you see that kind of intersection, like, evolving and meeting the future demands going forward?
Well, it's like I said, that we see already some hospitality brands supporting startups through acceleration programs. And I think that's important because it's one of the many ways that we see new ideas flowing into the marketplace. But I think that the technology, it's also making easier to go into any business space, and hospitality, it's not an exception. So probably we will see some of big brands and also some big hotel chains partnering with smaller companies to experiment and see what the technology that it's effective in solving hotels problems or not.
Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see what comes up in the future. And sort of looking at, so we kind of touched on how these innovations and, like, technology is making things easier in our industry, like in terms of facilitating operational efficiency, but then also, making the user experience a lot more seamless in terms of searching, planning, and booking trips and so on. But kind of looking at technology at, like, a broader perspective, because I guess this is something that in conversations that I have, sometimes it is like a theme that comes up, as it were. So I was curious to get your take on this. But sort of looking at how technology has impacted the world overall, there's a lot of ways that things have gotten better. We're living longer. There's a lot better, like, treatments, if people are sick, or people are not getting as sick as, statistically before. There's less wars, less conflicts, and so on. But sometimes, I don't know, I personally have this, like, concern that, like, I think what gives humans or humanity, like meaning is to have like a bit of a struggle and a bit of a challenge, like to solve, and that's what keeps life interesting and exciting. So my question is, could we live, in your view, do you think we could live in a world where technology eliminates all struggle and challenges for humanity? And in your view, do you think that would be a good thing? And why do you think that?
No, I don't think that technology will solve all of our struggles. Maybe I'm being pessimist or optimist, I'm not sure. But I think that while we have this so-called consciousness, we will be always looking for something. And so what I think that technology will do is to help us solve more complex problems. But I think that we will always be struggling, because we will always be trying to find like the next big problem to solve, or trying to answer the next big question. And so I don't know. I don't see that technology can solve that, and that's a good thing, I think, because that's the way we are keeping getting better and make society better all this time. Because any tool that we use today, probably somewhere in time, it was like a cutting edge technology, and now there are a bunch of things that we look and we think that they are obsolete, and some of them are really obsolete now, but they were like cutting edge technology on their time, and we just kept using those tools and those technologies to keep evolving and to keep building new technologies. And so what I would expect to see over the next years, it's exactly the same. As we are building new tools, we become more proficient in some things and more intelligent and with more capacity to solve problems, and we'll just keep evolving and finding new challenges and new things to fix, I guess. So what I believe we will always be struggling for something.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I agree, because I do think, and just to be completely agnostic with this, it's, with everything, I guess there's a trade-off. So even though like overall relatively things are better, I guess there's new, because I mean, yeah, technology, it's very powerful. I think a lot of people, even these big, like, the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Elon Musks and whatever, they don't, like they implemented these things that were so big, that are so ubiquitous in like our lives, but then it's like, yeah, it's such fast like transmission of information and such, I don't know, easy access to so much, and it's a very like powerful thing that I guess it's hard to also fully anticipate like what other challenges it creates, although we do see it creating challenges now. Like one thing that concerns me a little bit is I guess like the impact on like relating to each other on a human level sometimes. And like you have the thing, the notion of social networks, but then people are behind the keyboard, and sometimes it's I don't know, it seems like there's a less of a relating to having like a two-way conversation with another person on like a human level, and not really listening and having those like conversations. So I'm not sure like what your thoughts are on that.
I don't know. I think that, like I told you, we have lots of technologies that came before the ones that we have today. And we as a society struggled with some of them. Some of them even caused some social convulsion, let's call it like that, because there is always a transition time, like when we are learning the new technology and we are learning about the impacts that technology would have at the society level. And I think that we are struggling, and that we are passing through one of these moments now. But for instance, when talking about like human connection, when the telephone was invented, people didn't want to use the telephone because it was not the same as talking with a real person. Business will never get done through telephone. And then we know what happened next, and we know the history. So I think that we as humans tend to look at new technology most of the times as a bad thing, because we are afraid of the consequences and of the impacts that it might have on us. And historically, we have seen this happening. And historically, we have seen us like came through it and getting better after it. And I think that we are in one of those moments, especially now with AI, because that we are seeing something that has a huge potential for disruption, right? And even over the last couple of years, we've learned that the disruption may happen in certain places that we were not expecting initially. And this also, how can I say, increases the fear of the technology, because we are seeing that we are not very good at predicting what would be the impacts, because one thing is predictions and then it comes the reality. And apparently, in sometimes it's not matching our predictions. So, given your question about humanity and all of it, even in our days, with all of these struggles, with all of these polarizations that we are seeing online, if we just remove the keyboard from front of us and we start talking, we see that the differences start to dissipate. So I'm not saying that we don't have a problem, but I think that in the end, we will all be better once we understand exactly where we are and how all of these things are impacting our lives.
It's interesting you mentioned that, and I guess even like looking at things like I'll pick on Chat GPT as a specific thing, like it kind of, even though that's like, let's focus on like content creation, it's like we're seeing now that it's like, yeah, you can't overly rely on that. You have to, still have that like human expertise like behind it. But I guess like the concern sometimes with me is that like, I don't know, technology facilitates and makes things like super easy. So I wonder if sometimes we take certain things for granted now because it's so easy. And I actually made a joke because, AI art is a very triggering thing for me. So I, as a joke, predicted like, what if we, there's probably going to be like a very exclusive club where people are like only selling like this handmade stuff. And it's like going to put the value up like exponentially. Because I think sometimes when things become so easily accessible and widely available, it kind of devalues that thing. That makes sense. I don't know, but yeah, it's just a observation. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I'm not sure I totally understand your question there, but I can see that you are concerned about AI and art and digitalization of all things. I don't think that that's a problem, or I don't see it as a problem, because probably we will know new types of digital art, and we will start to expressing ourselves in different medias, call it like that, than what we would traditionally associate to art today. And also we will probably also have like what we call old media, or what we could consider to be old media. We see it today like books are a very old media, and we see that the sales are increasing year over year. So apparently people are like this analogic connection of having a paper book on their hands. And if you were looking to the industry like 10 years ago, everybody was saying that ebooks would kill books. We will stop having books on paper and things like that. And statistically, what we are seeing is that the traditional book sales are increasing year over year. We see this also in music. People are now buying vinyls again. And probably like in 20 years, they will want to have compact discs or something like that. I'm not sure. This is a joke that I used to do with my friends, like save all of your CDs, because probably the next generation will be after this the way that we are after vinyls and things like that. So I think there's always space. I think that we tend to be negative with these things and see technology as a threat, but I don't see it that way.
Yeah, I guess it's two-sided in some ways, in my opinion, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that it will, like in 5 years, we will have some kinds of digital art that you will be super fan.
Yeah, I mean, my point, I guess, with that question was just, when things become so easy to produce and to create, then things become saturated, like markets. I don't know. Would that be a risk, like in the hotel industry at all, or no? Or is that a dumb question?
I have no idea. Hotels tend to occupy a big space, so I'm not sure that saturation will be a problem. But of course, there are like mass tourism is becoming also a subject in some parts of the world. But I don't think it's related with technology, or maybe it is, but not directly, because technology it's also one of the things that made traveling so easy, right? Now we just get into a plane and we go to Japan or something like that. Back in the day, we will take like 1 year just to get there. Now we do this in few hours. So technology is evolving and it's facilitating a bunch of different things also in travel and also in hotels, increasing the service levels and things like that.
And for hotels specifically, sorry, this is a little, you were talking and then it kind of popped a question into my mind, but like in your opinion, and I think this is something that, because there's, the pace of evolution with technology and there's new things popping up like everywhere. And I guess sometimes as a hotelier, you have like limited, investment budgets or whatever. Like what would be your advice? Like, because obviously hotels have to adapt, so they have to be on the digital space and be optimized in order to compete. But like, with all the noise that's out there, what would be your advice to hotels? Like, if they're considering, this is what, like the
Well, yeah, that's a very complex question to answer because from our perspective, since what we do is to build software, we tend to look to the world through software. But managing an hotel, it has a bunch of different problems, including what I call physical or real world problems that are not solvable by software. Because if you think an hotel has to have, of course, software, be online, managing all the check-in, check-out, everything is digitalized, but the hotel still has the infrastructure, the pools, the accesses, like the amenities in the room and all of these things. One of the trends that we are seeing now is to have like streaming services in rooms and personalize the stay around these specifics in rooms. So there are lots of different areas that require investment and that require constant adaptation, let's call it like this. So, but what I would say, it's just to keep an open mind and keep seeing the technologies and keep seeing the new tools that are coming, and how can these tools be useful to improve the guest experience. I think it's really an hard task to make these decisions on the hotel side, especially when you think about the entire ecosystem of the hotel.
and the different business needs as well. And
yeah, but I think keeping an open mind to technology, trying not to be as reactive as the hotels have been till now, and maybe could be a good strategy.
And kind of, so now we get to the fun part. So kind of looking ahead and sort of to the trends that we touched briefly on them, but it would be good to, let's do a deeper dive into them now. But in terms of like what would, in your opinion, be like your top predictions for our industry within the next 5 to 10 years that might surprise our viewers, and why?
Well, that's an hard question, especially because you said things that can surprise our listeners. So you are asking me to do some bold predictions or something like that. but I just said 5 minutes ago that usually we are bad doing these long-term predictions because technology evolves faster and faster, and the trends keep changing along with it. But I would expect, I would say that I would expect for sure some changes on distribution. I'm not sure if I will get this right, but probably we will have more distribution channels, and these distribution channels will include social networking, like having reservations through Instagram, through short video forms, even through YouTube, maybe seeing a video and start the booking process of a specific room from a certain point in the video and things like that. I would also expect that messaging platforms like WhatsApp would become a source of reservations, like people doing shopping through WhatsApp. We are seeing e-commerce coming to WhatsApp, and so there's no particular reason not to have hotels there. So I think that will happen. And probably around AI and something that we discussed earlier in the podcast, probably we will have some kind of virtual travel agent that it's very specialized on a certain type of traveling, or that knows a lot about you and tries to give you like the perfect travel experience with the right hotels and the right type of experiences that you want. Another part that I would expect to have some transformation would be on identity, probably leveraged by blockchain. The way that we identify ourselves to airports, to hotels will also change, giving us also more control about the information that we are sharing about us, but at the same time facilitating these things, make things easier and more streamlined over the traveling process. And then probably pricing. I think pricing will become, all of this with technology and machine learning, pricing probably will become more dynamic, and we will start seeing also new types of fractional pricing and probably some kind of subscription services associated with hotels. Yeah. For now, I think I already said lots of things that can get me into trouble.
And you mentioned like new distribution channels, all sort of designed around kind of the direct business, or do you anticipate other things that could kind of disrupt? Because obviously, I mean, we have the OTAs and we have Google, which is also a bit of a disruptor in the sense. But like, is there anything else that could potentially disrupt or enable?
There's yeah, of course, there's the OTAs, where probably we will also have some transformation. I think that the OTAs model, it's more or less static for lots of years now, and I believe that we will also see new technology getting to the OTAs and giving new experiences on the OTAs, of course. Then the part about the direct reservations is that what are direct reservations are reservations that come through your website or through your booking engine, and that usually you will not pay any commission over it. So I'm not sure about this, because some of these new channels will probably have their own commission model or something like that. I'm not sure if we will be around commissions, around heads, what would be like the position that the hotels will have to take to go into it. But in terms of philosophy, I would consider them to be direct bookings, because despite they may have any type of commission, the relation to the guest will be closer. The guest will be talking the hotel, and the hotel with the guest, and not with an intermediary in the middle.
And I guess that's important, is those direct relationships. And if you had to narrow it down to like the one big thing, like, I don't know, I guess in your world, there's like the terminology of the next big thing, or the big thing, like with the different waves of I guess, evolution in technology. I'm referring to that series that you recommended. What was it? The Halt and Catch Fire one, and they're always like referencing that. So what do you think is the next like big thing in like hospitality / travel technology, if you had to narrow it down to one?
No, that one is really hard to narrow. What I would like to be the most important, or the next big thing, is that I would like it to be around distribution, like simplifying the distribution and doing these things to keep the hotels closer to the guests, and also to reduce dependency on OTAs and things like that, because I think that it will become a more kind of a free market where the hoteliers can better compete for the guests' attention. But I really don't know what would be the big thing. I don't even know if any of these things will happen anytime soon.
Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into, I guess, the distribution side and like the connection with AI. And something interesting actually was, so I think it was over a year ago or about a year ago, you actually wrote an article that quite accurately predicted at least the early impact of AI on like the online distribution space, and actually questioned whether, you know, similar technologies would become the new OTAs, was kind of your title. Yeah, there were a lot of heated discussions about this with people kind of not expecting it to have much of an impact. But then my question, I guess, in line with this is, what do you have to say to like the people that were kind of downplaying the impact of this type of AI on online distribution? And in your opinion, like, how do you expect AI to continue impacting this for like the wider industry, but also for hotels? And what would also be the impact, I guess, on hotels to compete and get more direct business on this?
Well, I think it's too early to say who was right about this. But this article was like, I think it was on the beginning of 2023, and I was trying to imagine the industry like 5 to 10 years from there, based on the latest technologies around AI. Because back then, like the ChatGPT was still very recent, let's call it like this. And I think lots of the heated discussions around this was because people were thinking that I was predicting the end of the OTAs as a business model, and that was not the case. I was not predicting the end of Booking.com or the end of Expedia. I just imagine that the way the users interact with these OTAs will be different. And actually, a few months later, the OTAs started to release their own chatbots and started to explore how this technology can change the experience. And so that pretty much aligned what I kind of predicted on the article, but we still need to see if this will gain traction and if we'll start to be common to have this kind of interfaces to plan bookings and to do reservations with hoteliers.
And something else that you mentioned specifically was the SEO and like the search engine results pages wouldn't be in the conversation because search engines would be replaced by bots. So could you clarify exactly, I guess, maybe put it into practical layman terms, if you can, what exactly you meant by this? And do we see this kind of unfolding? Like, how is it kind of currently developing as we speak?
Yeah, that one, I think, actually, I got it right, apparently, because we are seeing like the latest models from Google Gemini to OpenAI. We already see like the way that I was expecting this to work. Like you see results on or you have a short version from your prompt, and then you see references to certain pages. And actually, of course, we are we need to remind that we are at an early stage of all of this. Okay, so people still do search on Google, still do search on Bing and things like that, and so the search experience will not switch from one day to the other. But apparently, from what we are seeing on these chatbots, is that your position on Google is not very important. Okay, so even if you are on 5th or 6th place on the regular Google search, sometimes your website is still being referenced as part of an answer given by a chatbot, and so this is something that is related with what the experts call RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. This is something that you didn't have like on 2023. If you ask something let's say, how is the weather this week? Probably ChatGPT will tell you that he only has information until somewhere in 2022, I guess. But if you ask it today, it will search the web and give you a real-time result. This is also, by the way, one of the things that people were saying that chatbots will never be able to plan your trip, because they only have static information, and the rates are dynamic and the occupations are always changing, because people weren't seeing this connection between the LLM and the real-time information, which we are seeing now. And so what we expect to see is that this keeps evolving, and apparently for now, like I said, it doesn't really matter like your position on Google. We don't know exactly how these things work, but there are some companies already doing work around this. I talked with some of them, and what they say is that your position on Google doesn't necessarily influence your the possibility of you being included as a reference on a chatbot response. And this is good because it opens a lot of doors and new opportunities. But of course, it's also challenging because the number of references is not exactly the same as a search page, which has like 10 or 15 results.
You said in the same article, actually, that ads would still exist, but how would that necessarily work in relation to having the websites referenced in the answers? But then what would...
I don't know, that's kind of $1 million response. I imagine that Google is doing experiences around that because their core business is around this. I suspect that we will have like paid versions like we have with ChatGPT, that we will not see any type of ads, but then you will have free versions that will give you ads. I'm not sure if they will be related to the prompt, or if you will see randoms, if you see ads like that are not necessarily related with your search, like you see today on YouTube. Before a video start, it will be prompted with an ad. So I'm not sure, but one of the possibilities I think I mentioned on that article is that maybe if you ask for an hotel in Lisbon or something like that, it will say these are like the hotels that users suggest online, but I also have some sponsored links that might interest you and present you with more 4 or 5 hotels. But I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that there will be lots of people working on that right now.
And what would be your advice, I guess, with the way things are going, and I guess kind of expected, at least for now, to continue developing? What would be your recommendation for hotels to kind of adapt to this, like, I guess, new reality, to stay visible and to compete for that online business, and also get, continue having like strong direct performance?
Well, if we are talking about LLM specifically, I think that something that might be an interesting exercise is like to maybe choose a series of prompts that you would like to see your hotel being referenced, and then try to, I don't know, work around content and see if this has any impact on the chatbot's results. Because the earlier you start working on this, probably most chances you have to get it right when time has come. But I think that could be an interesting exercise.
And looking sort of at content, I guess, and SEO specifically, so these things like ChatGPT, they help a lot in the sense of, it's easy to maybe not produce all the content with ChatGPT, but to kind of use it to do a lot of the heavy lifting in that, especially when you have to publish a lot of things quickly. However, I've been reading up on the recent updates, like with Google, for example, and they're kind of now going to start penalizing more of that content. So wouldn't something then, so if you think of a chat GPT or whatever is going to be an enabler to help things be more efficient in that sense, but then Google is changing and this kind of content is going to be penalized, wouldn't it be more of a hindrance than making things easier in that sense?
I don't know. Google was already degrading, I would say, before we have all these LLMs available to us, because I think the search results are basically today like someone trying to sell you something on Google. That's kind of a frustration, and probably part of the success from the chatbots may come from this frustration, because you just ask questions and have direct answers. We know that sometimes the answers are not correct and we need to double check them. But I think the search experience was already degrading. And of course, when we have this powerful technology that can easily generate as a bunch of SEO friendly content and use it to create sites and try to make money with ads around that. That's also a problem for Google, because when people start to think that the search results are degrading, probably they will also be very open to try something different that's not Google. I'm not saying that this is happening, but we see that the search experience is degrading, and we see that degraded faster since the LLMs. And so once again, I imagine that Google, especially Google, would be working on a way to solve this and to give us again great content on their query results, and also to find a way to make money with a chatbot oriented search or something like that.
And how do you see this impacting the hotels specifically and their online business?
So what exactly?
I don't know, making so let's say they keep developing this, but then they start monetizing it. Do you think that will present some challenges to the hotels? Is there ways that they could adapt to that, or
I don't know. I think that any change on the search ecosystem, it's a challenge, and it's something that we will need to understand and to find ways to deal with it. I believe that at the pace of evolution, we will also have companies that will expertise on these problems and to support hotels and other e-commerce companies trying to find solutions for this. But I think it's too early, because we still don't really know where this will get us, honestly, in my opinion. Because of course we like chatbots and they save us a lot of time, but I'm not sure that if we need to go deeper into some subject, if this is the right tool. Okay, so probably it will still need to give us lots of references, and we still need to dig into information to see exactly what we are talking about, instead of seeing processed information that sometimes a chatbot went to get from a website that was already summarizing something somewhere. So in my opinion, we still need to see what's coming to this now. We have an idea, right? But I think that the big companies are still experiencing. We have to keep an open mind, experiment with these things, see how we could work with them, And then when the things get more stable, let's call it like this, certainly the hotels and other companies will start to consider these things on their budgets.
And sort of looking to, I guess, other trends and industry trends coming up also in terms of technology as well. And I'm kind of going to reference now like a recent report that I read from Skift about like the must-have technologies for next year, and I'm sure it will be going forward as well. And one of the key ones was actually automation, and yeah, I guess kind of consolidating and making business processes and things more streamlined and efficient. But the question I'll put to you now, like as technology continues to evolve, like what do you see as being like future advancements in this space? And what do you foresee as having like sort of the greatest impact in on facilitating greater operational efficiency, but also strengthening like hotels and their online business, and most notably their direct business and revenue?
I think that for the short term, let's say for the next 5 years, everything that will build, that will bring like automation to operational stuff will be good for hotels, because this will help simplify the operation. And I think that when these kind of day-to-day things are simplified or automated, this gives more time to hoteliers to build their story, to build their brand. And of course, at the same time, with this base, also increase the quality of the experience at the hotel. And so what I would see hotels invest over the next years will be some things around automation, okay? And then in online distribution, tools that start to get prepared for all of these new channels and new technologies, okay? Because I think that there are still some tools that are not available to small and independent hotels. And so I would also expect to see not only the automation, but also probably, I don't know, prediction tools and things like that, machine learning, to become generalized on small and independent hotels. That's the area where probably we'll need to leverage the playing field again, like GuestCentric. In the beginning, we were trying to give the digital tools to small independent hotels. And now I think that these tools more related with prediction, new distribution channels and things like that will need to come to small and independent hotels. But like with big focus, I would say around automation and automation based on machine learning predictions and things like that.
And another trend that they sort of focused on, and to be honest, I'm skeptical in the sense that I don't know, when I'm planning a trip or something like that, or even doing a booking, it's always a desktop thing. And I don't know, something that they predicted as well was like more focus on like mobile technologies. And I guess, I mean, you mentioned earlier WhatsApp, and I can kind of appreciate that sense, like after I've kind of made, let's say, a booking at a hotel, and sometimes they offer this. And if I have like kind of more nuanced questions where I need like a human answer and not like a bot or something like that, it is kind of easy. Well, it's good to have that kind of thing. But like we kind of see this, you know, notion of this is something I genuinely don't understand, and I want to understand. But like, for example, OTAs offering like mobile only rates, for example, for mobile users. But like, is it exclusive on mobile, or is it like on desktop as well? And if it's exclusive to mobile, what's what's actually the point? I don't know if that question.
Well, on the on the particular case of the OTAs, the reason for mobile only offers is that they want you to install their application and to have their application on your phone, because this way they get closer to you with notifications, special offers and things like that, so they can leverage their market through their app. And that's probably the main reason why OTAs offer these mobile exclusive offers, okay? Which is a different scenario for an hotel that doesn't have an app, but still has a mobile only offer, because they are trying to compete directly with these OTAs applications. But I think that this thing of the mobile, it's also generational. I think the younger generations that kind of grew with mobile phones tend to do more stuff on the phones. And I also think that overall the mobile experience on these travel apps and things like that will continue to evolve and become better. One of the things that I always say is that one of the reasons that people tend to book on the desktop, it's because they are not 100% satisfied with the experience that they are having on mobile. Okay, and so from a business perspective, the ideal situation would be to improve the mobile experience, not only because people that tend to prefer doing it on desktop will start doing it on mobile, but because like the new generation of travelers will probably want to do all of these things on their phone, because it's where they do everything else on their life.
It's interesting what you mentioned, and I totally didn't think about this when, and that's why I said I wanted to understand, but like this, I guess, incentivizing people to use like their apps and stuff, or to download their apps to make these kind of, I don't know, to strengthen that relationship with the guests. Do you see that happening, like, or hotels like maybe thinking about this or adopting this, having their own like apps, and this being like another avenue in which they can strengthen that direct relationship with their guests?
Yes, we see, like, especially hotel chains and big chains have their own applications, and then the reason is exactly the same, because when you install the application, you are kind of creating a relation, because you are registering, so you are giving your data to the hotel. Even if you decide not to book anything, you will be always an extra contact on their list to send you offers and things like that. And of course, on applications you have push notifications and things like that. So yeah, I would say it's a trend.
And what would be your recommendation, I guess, for hotels to kind of adapt to, I guess, this increasing adoption from the consumers to, and like Gen Z, for example, using more increasingly like mobiles to make their bookings and to plan their travel and stuff? What would be your recommendations for hotels to kind of meet that demand, but also kind of maintain that like holistic approach, where they're also, catering to those of us that like the more other.
I don't think that having a mobile app is a solution for all hotels, especially like today. I don't even think that it makes sense, because like I was saying, when you are talking about big hotel chains, that they probably have hotels in every corner of the world, so they have always something different to offer you, and that you can use probably in different trips if you go to different countries. So I think for those kinds of hotels, it has a larger potential that it would have for a single independent hotel, like in middle of nowhere or things like that. But I think overall, the effort must be to improve the mobile experience on the websites, on the booking engines, and of course leverage also other applications that the users have on their mobile phones, like producing good content to Instagram and things like that. That we must not forget that it's kind of a channel right now, because it can promote your brand and make people aware of your hotel. But I think that over the following years, this can really become like a source of reservations as the technology will continue to evolve.
You mean like the social networks, or in general, or like the
Yeah, like I said, one of my predictions, I think that social networks like Instagram, like probably TikTok, then others that may arrive that we don't know yet, and also YouTube will be the starting point for doing reservations in the future in a more direct way that we have today. Like you can see a picture of a book and say, I want to book this room immediately from there, which kind of you all can work around this, but not in a very optimized way for hotels. And also usually like the, how can I say, the transaction is done outside these platforms. And I'm not sure if in the future it will be like that. Probably you can do transactions inside of these platforms. Let's see.
That would be interesting. And that's something I can actually, so I don't like to use mobile, but I have seen things on Instagram that I've ended up booking, so I can kind of relate to that. So the report also kind of emphasized how AI is increasingly seen as like a main driver to deliver, I guess, personalized experiences to guests. And that's kind of a big thing, is that, you know, consumers are increasingly demanding, you know, that businesses anticipate their needs before, in some cases, even express it. But in your opinion, what are some practical ways that hotels, I guess, can leverage technology to, I guess, simplify this process? Because you think of like personalization and like meeting all these different market segments and different guest profiles and different demands, and it can sound maybe a little bit complicated to some people. So in your opinion, like what would be the way to, I guess, simplify this process, but still deliver a highly like personalized experience to guests?
I think that this personalization is something that everybody's talking about, but I think that very few people are doing it right. And I actually don't think that this personalization will be everything about tech. I think technology will be for sure a tool to leverage this. But the way I see it is a bit like I was saying like a while ago, which is the technology will allow to automate lots of things, will allow to predict some customer behaviors, and with all of this information, the hotels will have like the possibility to create more personalized experiences, but not through technology exclusively, but because of everything that technology will do for us and do for the hotel, right? So like we will have more time to tailor the correct experiences and the correct level of personalization, because personalization also has something different. It depends on the people on the person that you are talking to. If you ask someone that works like on infrastructure, they will tell you that personalization needs to have your own Alexa on the hotel room and you have your own shows and all of that. Then if you talk someone from e-commerce, will tell you that personalization is having the right offer for the right guest. If you talk to someone like that works on the hotel, will say that personalization is know you when you get into the hotel and greeting you by your name and knowing what your preference is because you have been there before. And so there are lots of things that people call personalization, and probably there will be different technologies that will be helping in all of this. But I think that the personalization will also have like a human factor, but leveraged by technology. For instance, giving all the automation that technology will give you, you probably can pick up special things from your room, and even buying some extra things from your room because you picked it up, not because the hotel found that it was great for you, but probably because with technology, hotel finds easier way to give you personalized offers, and will tell you, look, Melissa, do you like to have your own Netflix on the room, or you prefer to have a room near the pool, near the elevator, or whatever? And you will have the possibility to choose these things to tailor your experience. And of course, probably you will also have other things on the hotel based on your preferences. But I think that sometimes people tend to think that basically this is all be predictive and automated, which I don't think it's the case. There will be always a human factor, like asking you what you like, offering you different things that you may enjoy, and then you kind of tailor your stay in the hotel based on that. And then of course the service level on the hotel will also be leveraged to technology and to automation.
Yeah, I guess maybe there's a misconception sometimes that with the hype around personalization, that it's like, okay, answering an email with the person's name on it, you know, or in some cases, like, I don't know, you visit a certain place, or you go to a certain, let's say you book a flight to Spain or something like that, and then they send you an email in Spanish, you know, because of, you know, like, I don't know, what would be.
But somewhere in time, if you think somewhere in time, back a few years ago, probably those things were hard to do. Okay, they had extra labor and things like that, because the technology was not generally available for everyone. And so this is one of those examples that back in the day you would be surprised to receive an email with your name and on your language, and in nowadays it's like the list that you are expecting, like those are the minimums. Okay, yeah. And so this also teaches a lot about technology, because technology also sets our expectations higher, because we have a bunch of things that came incrementally, and so we didn't even notice them, but that today we take them for granted. Like not many years ago, you would be traveling with a map and doing reservations by phone or something like that. And that's something that it's completely inconceivable for us today.
It's funny you mentioned that, like even things like autosave, you take it so for granted now. But I remember like when I first started writing emails and I wasn't a fast typer, and like it took, I don't know, an hour to get everything down. And then like the electricity went off and there goes all the work. But yeah.
And then you had the time, like if you were using Microsoft Word and you lost your power, but then you could recover the document, but probably the recovering will not be exactly how on the point that you were. And then you had autosave, and today you are working on a document and you don't even think about it. Yeah. But this is also a good example of this incremental stuff that seem that don't have really any value, honestly, like autosave. We don't even think about it. But it's one example of a trend of something that technology like did this small change one day, and we don't even remember how it was before this, like saving the document, save as, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah.
And I don't know, in your opinion, like what would you say? So obviously, I mean, we hear a lot about personalization in the industry, and I think there's some, you kind of mentioned earlier that there are people talking about it and perhaps implementing it, not always in the right way. In your opinion, what does the right way look like? And what would be maybe some pitfalls to avoid for hotels? But I guess thinking predominantly about having that direct relationship with the guests, knowing the guests and engaging the guests. What does good look like and what does bad look like?
Well, I don't want to be the judge of what looks good and what doesn't look good. I don't even say that there is a right way or a wrong way. I just said that depending on the people you ask, they will give you a different definition for personalization in the hotel. But for sure, like the example you mentioned, like having an email on my language with my name, in our days, to the technology level that we have and to the expectations that we have, I wouldn't consider that like to do personalization. We need to increase the level on that. And there are many ways. We talked about some of them right now, but I think that to do personalization in a costly, effective way, it will always be through technology, like leveraging technology to automate, to predict certain things, and then put a human factor there in the middle by asking guests what they want or trying to guess at some point. But yeah,
And
because going back, because I said that if you ask all of these people, they will give you different definitions, but by definition, none of them is wrong. They are just looking to the problem from a different perspective. And so if you think of yourself as a guest and you detach yourself from technology and things like that, you don't see these things separately. You will see this like as the full package. So probably as a guest, you would want to have like everything, like the personalized room with my Alexa, or with my streaming services, being greeted by the name, knowing the food I like, and things like that. So you would want the full package. So I think that this is an area that hotels will need to continue to work, and the technology will also continue to evolve to give better experiences, because in the end, that's what really matters, is that people have a great experience when they get to the hotel, or even before.
When we talk about personalization, I kind of relate to it a lot with like what's on your CRM, and usually, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, it kind of seems like, okay, you have to have already interacted with the guests on some level to kind of gather that information to know about them. But like, is there a way, or is it in development already, like that you can kind of anticipate those guest needs? I don't know if machine learning is the correct term, so apologies. But like, yeah, to kind of anticipate those needs, like the specific little nuances that they would want in their reservation before the guest has even like reached out to the hotel directly?
Yes, there are already some studies and some work being done around this. It's not new from the hotels, but there are companies that are like studying the consumer behavior or the consumer psychology. I think that's how they call it. And this takes many data points, like the things that you are clicking in the hotel, the points of the screen that you are looking. So there are lots of how can it call, like pinpoints that will go into this, and then try to guess what you are looking for. Part of this also comes from the referrers, from where you come from. For instance, probably if you come from Instagram, you are looking something more visual, more pictures, things like that. If you come from a Google search, probably you are a different kind of user than the one that did this research on Instagram. Of course, the device that you are using. And so these are also forms of personalization, like showing you different things depending from the channel that brought you to the hotel website, for instance. Okay, and this doesn't necessarily predict what you are looking for, but at the same time, it's already trying to tailor an experience according to your expectations. And so we will see more and more of this over the following years, because technology tends to get cheaper and to get closer to the markets, and new trends start to pop around this. And that's also one of the things that I said that I would expect to see, is these kinds of technology getting to small independent hotels.
Before we go, the last question that I have is, what are you most looking forward to for our industry in the coming months, and why?
Well, in the coming months, I'm looking forward to the new stuff that we are working at GuestCentric. I'm not sure if I can talk about it right now, so I will not say what it is, but I think in the beginning of 2025, we will have great news, and that's something that it's pumping me up during this month is, and that we are working in something that I think it will be great for hotels and for our customers.
Well, thanks for joining today's episode. It was really great to have you. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Bye-bye.